Now is probably a good time to talk about it. A few months ago, there was a huge data breach at Game Freak, and this data breach included, similar to how it was with Insomniac, everything was leaked. Future games, movies, shows, as well as character sheets and Pokemon design of everything, and even downloadable and playable builds of upcoming games, and even personal information of all employees. I mean everything. However, today I want to specifically talk about ideas and mechanics that got scrapped. I won't be talking about artwork, future games, or the Typhlosion lore, because honestly, I don't really care about those things. I want to keep the future content a surprise for myself, so I didn't really bother reading any of those. And even with some of the stuff I managed to find, since naturally Nintendo has been taking down these leaks, especially for the upcoming games and media, there are tons of things that I haven't even found. But the main things I did manage to find are some meetings and idea proposals that they had for Pokemon Diamond and Pearl and Pokemon Sun and Moon. And so, let's get started before Nintendo comes after me. One of them that I do want to talk about is the idea of throwing Pokeballs. Yes, I know. We've been doing that since the existence of Pokemon. But this proposal was during the development of Diamond and Pearl on the DS. Just remember that. And so, Nakatsui says, I want players to be able to aim where they throw a Pokeball using a touchscreen. Players could determine where on the Pokemon the ball lands, and the spot hit would affect the catch rate. Depending on the Pokemon's pose or orientation during battle, the target area for the ball could change. So obviously we see this in today's games, such as Pokemon Go and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee for instance. And at least for me, after playing Pokemon Go a lot, I find myself manually throwing a Pokeball is very repetitive and boring. And after learning that the remake for Red and Green adapts that same Pokeball throw mechanic, was an instant turnoff for me. I think I'm still in Viridian Forest in that game. I mean, even this Diamond and Pearl meeting, they dismissed it as they thought it would be too repetitive in your normal game loop. And if they were to make it a special event, like doing it only for legendary Pokemons, it would feel weird because it would be inconsistent with the rest of the gameplay. And ultimately, having an extra layer of work, so to speak, didn't translate well in the rewards you would get, especially for casual players. I think they definitely made the right call here, especially with how small the DS screens are, and it would have just never worked. I think it's a neat feature, but I think it only works in spin-off games like Pokemon Go. Another thing they talked about was writing notes on maps. I want players to be able to write notes on the map or add sticky notes to mark important locations or discoveries. So similar how it is in open world games like Breath of the Wild and Genshin Impact, you could put symbols or markers on the map. I think having map markers are really only used if you need to mark something that you want to come back to, whether it's because there's a boss or an area that you need to farm materials from. And this is something that you need in open world games like Scarlet Violet. However, Scarlet Violet, at least for me, doesn't need map markers despite being an open world. Why? Because there's literally nothing of note on the open world. There's no landmarks, no notable POIs. I mean, Paldea is very boring and bland if you look past Area 0. They did implement this into Legends Arceus, and I did use this feature because I needed it. So I hope the next mainline game have the option of putting markers on your map, and me as the player make use of the markers for various reasons. Next up is turning secret bases into personal gyms. Players could create their own gyms, similar to secret bases. They would place themselves at the deepest part and set up traps and drainers. I really like this idea. I'm assuming this was something that they wanted to add into the underground world, and honestly, it would have been amazing if you could do that. Even if they implemented this in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, it would have been great. Just being able to create your own mini gym or even challenging other mini gyms is a cool and fun idea. And this would have some longevity because this would be user created content. People would be able to show off their decorations, their designs, their Pokemon, and just the strength of their team comp in a cool and fun way. I really hope that they bring this idea to light in the next mainline entry. Next is online Pokemon battles. I want players to participate in online battles and tournaments under equal conditions. Now, I know there is a form of online battles to this day, but at least I think it is only a ranked ladder to play in. I wish they added something like what they did in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, where they could have a cool little fun 8-player bracket style tournament that lasted over a single weekend or week. But the rule set for these are fun and casual I don't know, single battle but grass types only, or triple battle legendary battles, or whatever, I don't know. Because for me, I do want to battle people online, but I don't want to go up against very sweaty people on the ladder, as in the nature of skill-based matchmaking, and having these one-off fun tournaments is not meant for something to grind for per se, but something that anyone has a chance to win something. Maybe the next team they'll do it. Now this one has been implemented into the game, but it is cool seeing something that they talked about in these meetings and actually put into the game. They went over touchscreen based controls. I want to replace D-pad controls with the touchscreen to make organizing the items smoother. We could also add small interactions like pressing elevator buttons or selecting items from vending machines. I mean, it's pretty much in every Pokemon game since then, and with every new entry that added more and more things they could do with a touchscreen. Like, I'm pretty sure it was in X and Y where you could drag your Pokemon order in your party using the touchscreen. That was a game change for me since I tend to shuffle my team a lot, and using the D-pad to change that order was very, very annoying. So it's great seeing something proposed, then implemented, and then evolved throughout the years. This next one is something I'm surprised they haven't even done yet, and that's creating custom Poké Balls. Players can create their own Pokeballs by drawing pixel art. They can customize the ball's performance, such as making it easier to catch certain Pokemon. The player's name is attached to the ball, and they can give these custom balls to others via communication. Players can carry up to 5 custom balls. How have they not done this yet? Sure, people can draw inappropriate things, but still, I want to be able to have a cool Pokeball design that matches my partner Pokemon. Do you know how cool it would be to have a Pokeball that matches the color scheme and design of my best buddy's Ceruledge? They need to get this feature in, then deal with censoring later. Smash Bros did it with their custom stages, and I feel like Pokemon can do it too. This next one is an interesting idea. They proposed a sound player. I'd like the player character to wear headphones instead of a field BGM. Players would hear the sounds of Pokemon in their natural habitats. Traditional BGM could be accessed via radio-like sound player. Songs that the player heard once would be registered in the sound player and could be replayed anytime. This took me a while to understand. So basically in-game, your character would wear headphones where you would listen to music. So similar to how the protagonist from Persona 3 wears his headphones to listen to music. And in-game, you can choose to wear your headphones and listen to, Driftveil music for example. Or you can take them off and listen to the sweet sounds of nature and maybe hear Pikachus running up the trees and some Spearows yelling at each other. I think it's a really cool idea. Maybe not something that the general audience would enjoy, but I do hope they bring this idea to maybe like a spin-off game or whatever, because I do think it's a really cool idea. I found this one to be really funny. Gender-specific events. I'd like to add events after completing the game that differ based on the player's gender. Yeah, this would not fly in today's time. I'm glad they actually didn't follow through with this. I couldn't imagine what people would think if this would actually be implemented. Imagine only being able to catch a Pokemon like, Diancie if you were a female character only. This next one I think is pretty cool. Distance concept in battles. Introduce a concept of distance in battles. The opponent's Pokemon is displayed on the top screen while the player's Pokemon is shown on the bottom screen. During battles, Pokemon will move automatically, either advancing toward the opponent or retreating. When close to the opponent, attack powers increase, but further away, defense decreases. To stop the movement, players can tap the Pokemon on the touchscreen. Now, this is a bit complicated, but I do like this idea. It's kind of similar to the formation mechanic in Metaphor, I think, and I do think it's a cool mechanic. The problem is, I think the casual audience isn't ready for this type of mechanic. Your average casual person is already confused with, like, the weakness type chart, and if you were to add a distance/formation mechanic on top of that, people will lose their minds. So unfortunately, even though I love this idea, I do think it doesn't belong in the mainline entries and maybe in spin-offs and whatnot. So it's good that they scrapped this idea in my opinion. Remember, these ideas are still for Diamond and Pearl. This next one they talked about was flying freely with Fly. When using Fly, the top screen would display the flight in progress, while the bottom screen shows the entire map. Players could decide where to land during the flight by selecting a spot on the map. Now obviously, maybe doing this on the DS is a bit too much, but they did bring this to Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby in the form of Soar. It was the greatest thing ever, and I thought it would evolve further than that. But then, they just stopped and never made a reappearance after that. Why? Like, I guess technically you could do that in Scarlet Violet, but it looks terrible and is cumbersome to fly around in that game. Hopefully on the new Switch console coming out soon, flying around will actually be a spectacle to do. This next one is most likely something that we are all familiar with. A rival becomes a champion. Continuing an old concept from Red and Green, where the protagonist, rival, and a junior trainer appear, the junior grows stronger over time and becomes the champion, but the player defeats him in the end. The surprise element makes this idea appealing. I mean, yeah, probably not something that would surprise people or make it any special because I would think too many people would compare that character with Gary. But I think this could work with someone that's not your rival, maybe with like your professor or a member of an evil organization, because I don't think having a rival become a champion would make that rival special or unique. This next one is adding storylines for gym leaders. Instead of allowing players to challenge gyms immediately, there could be scenarios that highlight the gym leader's strengths. Beating them after these stories would feel more rewarding. I do like this idea. This would make the overall gameplay a bit more story driven. The problem is that the storylines with these gym leaders has to be interesting. I think we can all agree that the gym leader designs and personalities for most of these gym leaders are good, but having them be well incorporated into the storyline is a different matter. I think Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 is the closest thing to having something like this, and I thought it was well made. So I do think Game Freak could make a story-driven Pokemon game, but I guess the real question is if players would want that compared to having like a pure open-world sandbox where you just do whatever you want without being constrained to anything, like in Scarlet and Violet. On paper, it sounded cool, but actually playing Scarlet and Violet, it was horrible. But that section in Area Zero, where it was heavily story-driven, was very, very, very good, and I want more of that. But I wonder if other people share the same sentiment as I do. Next up is partner mechanics. Some areas could require 2 people to access, players might choose a partner, and their roles could tie into the story. I really like this idea, and it would encourage people to play with other people. I guess the problem really is that if you don't really have any friends, you just have locked content right in your face because you're lonely. I think once you solve that problem, I feel like they should lean heavily into this, in my opinion. On my other commentary video on Pokemon, mentioned that they should focus on more like online features and interactions on their next game. And so having something like this would definitely be beneficial. Alright, now these next few are scrapped ideas from Sun and Moon. I didn't really play Sun and Moon, in fact I only played Ultra Moon, and I didn't really get to finish it because I got really bored and my 3DS broke. So I could be wrong just because I just don't know. One idea that got scrapped was meta trainers, a new class of trainers that adapt to their team based on your team composition. I like this idea. Why is it not in the game? It seems pretty simple to make. Next, mirror trainers, a new class of trainers who use the same team as the player. I like this idea. It seems very easy to implement. Why is it not in the game? Next, another scrapped game mode was team battles. Create a team of 5 trainers, including the trainer, to compete in large-scale battles in a unique facility. To create a team, you must recruit trainers via various methods, and after meeting different conditions, after that, you can train your team members, change their team lineups, or even send them on journeys to go raise levels and possibly catch new Pokemon. The IVs and other characteristics are randomized. So unlike the ones prior, this one is clearly a lot more complicated. I think it's a really cool idea. It's kind of like, I don't know, like an AFK RTS simulator of some sort, at least based off these 2 sentences. Would be really cool as a mobile game, maybe not so much as a side content for a mainline game like Sun and Moon. I can see something like this on like the next game for the new Switch console though. Last but not least, we got Infinite Battle. Exclusive to a battle facility, a roguelike mode where you continuously battle one opponent after another, with the option to switch Pokemon depending on the next opponent. Strategic use of recovery moves with high PP and abilities is crucial. What? They scrapped this? On my other video, I said they need to make content that does like some genre blending, like a roguelike game, because it's roguelike are in season. And funny enough, the next month I was playing Pokérogue a lot, and it's a fan-made game, and a lot of people loved it. They could have moved it into the next entry, Sword and Shield, or Scarlet and Violet, or put in the DLC, or a spin-off, I don't know. Why is there no official roguelike Pokemon game? So clearly Game Freak has been cooking. We'll never know 100% why these ideas got scrapped, we can only guess. But especially for those Sun and Moon ideas, it feels like a situation where they were scrapped in order to make deadlines. Honestly, for a franchise like Pokemon, where they have to time their game releases with many things such as merchandise, spin-offs, TV shows, movies, and whatever else they sell, but I just hope that Pokemon is first and foremost a video game. Pokemon didn't get popular as a TV show or through its plushies. It was the video game. And so I wish, rather than the video games being timed around the franchise should be being timed around the game. That way we can have a good Pokemon video game. Because honestly, the last good Pokemon was Pokemon Black and White, and that game came out 14 years ago. Whatever, man. Nintendo can have my money regardless. I wonder if there's anything on the scrapped ideas on Scarlet Violet, since it's the most recent mainline game, and that would be cool to read up on. Unfortunately, this is all I got for today. Thank you for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe to this video if you like this type of content, and if you have any suggestions for any game you want me to play, you can leave a comment down below, or come join the Discord and link below that I'm active in. See you guys later.